Canada and Colombia?
The most obvious difference is the weather. In Colombia, there's usually just one type of weather year-round. However, obviously it either rains or it doesn't rain. Whereas in Canada, you have rain, you have snow, you have the changing of the seasons. There's 4 different seasons. There's summer, fall, winter, and spring. Another major difference is also the number of nationalities you see everywhere and different cultures that you see everywhere in Canada. Whereas here in Colombia, you don't see such a variety of multinational culture. However, there is obviously a variety of cultures within the same country. Other differences is the food. In Canada, there is a lot of different types of food, but I would say that in Colombia, even though there's only, there's obviously different regions, and each region has its different type of food, whereas even though Canada is a much bigger country, there isn't as much variety of food from what people eat from one place to the next. And I would say that's probably the 3 biggest differences you see between Canada and Colombia.
Next question.
Next question. It's recorded, you can.
Why do they speak French in Canada?
The reason they speak French, Canada has 2 official languages, French and English. And the reason for it is that, in fact, the French, and maybe not a lot of people know that, the French were actually the first Europeans to settle in Canada. Then the English came, and then between all the wars and the battles between the English and the French, essentially, even though English is predominantly spoken throughout Canada, there is one province known as Quebec that speaks French. So the 2 official languages of Canada is French and English. These are the 2 predominantly, or the 2 European cultures that inhabited Canada, or England and France, just like Spain. The reason why Colombians speak Spanish is because the Spanish were the ones that inhabited this part of the world.
What animals are there in Canada that are not in Colombia?
There are many animals that live in Canada that are not in Colombia. Among them would be the beaver, the grizzly bear, the Kodiak bear, a whole variety of bears. The moose, variety of deers, elks, reindeer. Yes, the ones that Santa Claus uses. What else? There's salmon. In terms of fish, so there's a whole variety of fish. But yeah, kind of the most obvious ones would be the ones such as the bear, the beaver, eagles, and the moose.
Did the flag of Canada change, or was it like always the same?
No, it's changed before the Canadian flag that exists now. There used to be called the Red Ensign. The Red Ensign was, for the most part, it was a red flag. And on the top left corner, it had the Union Jack, so the one from Britain, and then on the kind of the right side had a coats of arms. I forget exactly how it is. And then in 1965, or 1964, 63, they started figuring out to come up with its own unique original flag. And so Canada came up with this flag, which is what we see today, which is red, white, and red. And in the middle, we have the maple leaf. And the reason for the red, white, and red has to do with kind of keeping the history of the English history, the red with the red ensign, the old flag, and then the 2 different colors would be sea, land, sea, which is, if you see the Canadian map, there's the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean on the other side. And the maple leaf represents kind of what Canada's that's always been kind of the symbol for that part of the world, the maple leaf.
No more
6
questions?
That's only 4. What are the other ones?
La otra ya la respondió.
Yes? Okay, well think of another one.
What's number 5?
It was like, why did birds have the leaf?
Oh, okay. And what was number 6?
And if you knew like other like special difference between like what are like the other like special things of Canada?
The other special things, in what sense?
Like the typical things? I don't know.
Customary things. There's obviously the people, when they think of Canada, they think of the Canadian Mounted Police. They're the police officers that ride on horses and have the red uniform. But they only wear that on special occasions. It's not as though that's what all policemen look like in Canada. The maple syrup. Maple syrup tastes very similar to melao here in Colombia. Maple syrup is basically they grab the sap from the tree, so the juice that comes out of a certain tree, the maple tree, and then they boil that, just like they do with sugar cane, and they come up with this liquid, a brown liquid, that coincidentally enough looks like melao, and tastes similar to it. Other typical things would be ice hockey. Canada has, that's its national sport in the winter, and then there's another sport called lacrosse, which is the summer national sport. What else is very kind of Canadian? It's national parks. There's a lot of parks throughout Canada, like big forests that you can go hiking, camping, and you can come across animals, but you may not come across a human being for like 2 weeks if you really wanted to. So just big amounts of land, because Canada is very big, but for its size, it's a very small population. For example, Colombia is 48 million, 44, 48? How big is it? 44? Colombia, 44 million?
Yeah.
Colombia is 44 million, yet Canada has 32 million, but if you look at Canada, it is much bigger than Colombia. Just like in Colombia, if you look at where people live in Colombia, they live in a certain part of the country. In Canada, the same thing happens. Most people live in a certain part of the country, and that part of the country is right close to the U.S. border. 80% of the population live close to that part. Not because we want to be close necessarily to the U.S., but because in terms of weather conditions and everything, it's kind of the most populated, best place to live. Not many people want to live in the middle of the Arctic Circle. Other typical things, I don't know. Just like Colombia, we have our day, the Canada Day. Yeah.
Thank you for the interview. Thank you very much.
Oh, no,
Daré las gracias. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Pero volver ahora.